We're going to start with that first one now. The first one is GroWater and Company. Stephen Totsi, if you would come up and give your presentation. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. For purposes of your scorecard, I'm in the over 60 category, so I should be one of the only ones there, hopefully. GroWater is a company we just started, and it's being set up to commercialize single-layer controlled nanoporous graphene membranes developed by Dr. Rohit Karnik at MIT, and its use is in water purification and desalination. Our mission is to replace conventional polyamide membranes. Polyamide membranes have sort of been a stalwart membrane used by the industry for about the last 30 years. It's been optimized, and the industry has sort of adopted different strategies to reduce cost and improve performance going forward. They're not spending any considerable time in further developing polyamide membranes. They're willing to tolerate the weaknesses and limitations that are provided by them. So the industry, to achieve economies of scale, is moving towards basically building larger and larger desalination plants. And the thought being the larger the plant, the lower the per unit cost. Strategically, our approach is completely different at GroWater. We're looking to achieve economies of scale not by increasing the size of the plant or the capacity of the plant, but by improving the productivity and effectiveness of the purification and desalination membrane systems. In effect, producing more water using fewer resources. And basically, our value proposition to achieve cheaper water is by increasing the productivity of the system by a factor of 10 times using the graphene membranes. Increasing the productivity by a factor of 10 will enable us to reduce the plant size by a factor of maybe 4 times or greater. And we feel producing smaller and smaller plants that are more productive is, in effect, the way to go. So the graphene itself is a remarkable material. You probably heard a lot about it. We're the first group that has been able to actually develop a workable membrane at MIT. But we do have the benefits. The membrane itself is 1,000 times thinner than conventional polyamide membranes. It offers separations of 100 times faster, and increasing the flow rate or permeance of at least 10 times, which will increase or enable us to reduce the plant size. Now, once we can reduce the plant size, it'll enable us to move away from creating sort of fixed stationary plants and move into developing a distributed network of autonomous portable water purification and desalination systems. The market itself, water, as you know, is a $4 billion market. There's about 22 billion cubic meters per day. Desalination, the dependence on desalination is growing every year. Today it stands at about 1%, but it's going to be increasing to 15% by 2025. So in effect, at the bottom, we just show the cost comparison of using our systems versus using the conventional polyamide systems. For treating brackish water, we'll have savings of approximately 30%. And basically, for seawater, we would expect to have similar savings. Okay? Here we are in terms of our technology roadmap and the value creation and risk assessment. To date, we've developed the pore creation. We've developed the pore size of pores of less than 0.3 nanometers, which is smaller than the size of hydrated salt molecules, but larger than water molecules, so water molecules can pass through. We've achieved pore densities in the neighborhood of 5 trillion 5 trillion pores per centimeter, and we've developed a uniform pore distribution. The challenge moving ahead for us is developing a scale-up manufacturing system, and am I done? Oh. and developing a leakage mitigation system.
And thank you, Stephen.
Oh,
Thank you very much.
Okay. All right.
I saw a good deal of conversation over here. I'm sure that we've got some interesting questions. Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
You have 5 minutes of questions now.
Oh, 5
and so
minutes
you
of
get
question.
to anything we didn't let you finish up. You can always try to stay on message
okay,
like a
great.
candidate.
All right.
Go ahead.
Tell me a little bit about what you've done to date, at what scale you've tested it, what volumes.
Well, right now, to date, we've developed, well, basically, Dr. Karnick at MIT, they're the first group to be able to get to below 1 nanometer in terms of pore size. And so we've developed a 1 centimeter square membrane to date, and basically tested it for nanofiltration. And we've shown separations for multivalent salts. And our next step is to move up from 1 centimeter squared up to 30 centimeters square, and hopefully we'll get up into nanofiltration and into the reverse osmosis. To date, we haven't really developed the flow, but by the end of the first year, we expect to go from 1 liter per beater square per bar per hour up to 10 liters per meter square per bar per hour. Does that answer your question, or?
Do these go into the replacement market? Are these the same form factors that will replace
We really
the existing?
The replacement market is always an interesting way. We're developing a very highly unique system, and we want to develop separate pressure vessels and unique systems to take advantage of the quality of the membranes. We're not convinced that the best use is to use it as a replacement for conventional polyamide membranes.
So
because truly, in effect, you can always compete with us on cost if you're going to use conventional polyamide membranes, right? So while we will consider it, we're just not so sure strategically. We want to shrink. The industry is going towards making larger and larger vessels. So you're going from 4-inch to 8-inch diameters to 12-inch to 16-inch diameters. We want to go back to 4-inch diameters. So we're sort of to answer your question, we can retrofit. I'm not so sure it's the best use.
2 minutes left. Let's get one more question.
Oh, and so you spoke a lot about the economics of the product. Could you talk a little bit about the economics of the company?
Well, the economics of the company, yeah, I mean, right now we're a startup, okay? We're in our really first round of funding. We're looking to raise $1 million for the first year.
No, I'm sorry.
No, I know you're talking about valuation. Okay. I'll get there.
Okay.
In effect, if you look at it on a per unit basis, okay, because the water market's not a monolithic market. It varies state to state, world to world. But in general, when we do our projections, we look at an average price of about $1 per cubic meter that we could sell water at. We want to basically get into the market. Our business model is to sell water and not membranes. And we feel we can produce those, the cost of the water to produce it should be less than 50 cents per meter square, per cubic meter. So in effect, we have a pretty built-in margin. Now the question is how fast we can scale up and deploy the portable systems. In the slides where we talk about having 22 billion cubic meters per day, if we can get up to 1 billion cubic meters per day in our systems, obviously at $1, that gives you a company with revenue of close to $1 billion. And we would expect that's doable within 10 years.
You mentioned that the market opportunity is about 400 billion.
400 billion.
That's the total water market. So what's the percentage of that the users are currently spending on the polymembranes?
Well, okay, now you get down to it. Right now, the
And with that, now we get down to it, but
do you want me to answer that? I can answer it after if you want.
one of the benefits, thank you.
Okay, sorry.
One of the benefits, we certainly encourage everybody to do networking before and after the event. So Stephen, no doubt with that, with your startup and your business model, I would certainly seek out the judge either now or in the future.